Hi, this is Melanie from Hook to the Left, and today we're going to take a look at the differences between these three roving yarns. So let's go ahead and get started. Hello, welcome back to my channel. If you're returning, thank you so much. I'm so glad to see you, and if you're brand new, then go ahead and hit that subscribe button, especially if you like yarn product reviews, yarn reviews, and tutorials, and little itty bitty kitty cats. He's been getting in my shots. Hello, baby. Come on, let's go ahead and get out of the shot here. Anyway, go ahead and hit that subscribe button and hit the bell so you're reminded each time I put out some new content. And so today we're going to take a look at these three roving yarns. Now, I am not going to review the individual yarns. I am just going to compare the three yarns together. Okay? Everybody knows that roving yarns do not frog well, so just keep that in mind when you're thinking about getting a roving yarn. They are not something that frogs well at all. I actually had created this hat almost in full. I needed to frog it for some reason. I think I made it too short or too long. Anyway, I lost probably a third of a roll, or a skein, a third of a skein, because I had to frog it. And I frogged it very carefully using the needle to pick it apart and stuff like that. Which maybe one day I'll go through frogging some roving yarn so that you can see how to do it carefully. That's still not foolproof because this yarn loves to catch on itself. So just a heads up on that. Keep that in mind when you're creating this. Make sure that you are not zooming through unless you know your pattern really well. Take your time to get it right, because this is beautiful yarn. It's soft yarn, and you'll want to make sure that you keep your products, because I love this yarn. Just keep in mind it is not the easiest to work with as far as frogging goes. I think I've said enough about that, haven't I? Probably a little bit more than enough, but we'll go ahead and we'll take a look at these together. So what I did is I made three of the same hat pattern. The only difference between the three different hats is I only made a pom-pom for one, because I wanted you to see what the pom-pom looks like with the roving yarn, which I love it. And it ended up being striped, just like the hat. It's perfect. And one other thing to note here is the Prism is a different weight from the Unforgettable and the Landscapes. Okay, so this Prism is a DK weight, this is a worsted weight, and this is a worsted weight. Now, I do want to mention something between the three, is this one had the most varied weights. So when you get roving yarn, you tend to kind of fluctuate in the weight. Now, if they call for a 4 weight, then that means that most of the yarn, as it's being spun, is a 4 weight. Okay, a worsted weight, that most of it. And that's true for this yarn, for Landscape. And it's also true for this. Most of it is DK weight. Occasionally it gets a little thinner, but for the most part you're dealing with the DK weight. For the most part you're dealing with a 4 weight here. Here, you go from a 4 weight, almost a 5 weight, all the way down to what I felt like was a 2 weight. There was just a lot bigger variation, which made for some interesting stitches. And as it works all together, I mean, I find it hard to find the spots where it got real thin. But for an overall pattern, this feels so much looser as a pattern than this, even though these two are considered the same weight. It's because this had more variation. Okay? And I used the same hook size on all of these hats. Alright, so I'm going to have you take a look. So this little scrap ball is what's left over from this. And we're going to take a look at, see if I can find some of the thinner pieces. Well, here we go. I think right here. So this actually is a really good example. And this, I found the case for more for, and I'm going to zoom in a little bit so you can see a little bit better. Let me take the hats out of the picture so you can take a look at this particular yarn a little bit better. But I found this to be happen the most on the Unforgettable yarns. Okay, so you see Oops, sorry. So coming across, and you're going to see this weight change. There you go. It's much thinner right here. And then it goes back to being thicker. A little bit thinner there. But this is, you know, thicker here. So the Unforgettable yarns is the one that this happened to the most. See, it's getting very thin there. And thick. Okay. Nothing wrong with that. I just wanted to let you know that that happened the most with the Unforgettable yarn. The other yarns were much more consistent in their weight than the Unforgettable. I happen to like the changes. I think it was kind of neat. I like the different, it just lent itself to an interesting texture as I was creating the garment. So, like I said, there's nothing wrong with that changing up. I'm just winding my ball back up here. So just a heads up. Now I'm going to also run through, this is what I have left of the Mary Maxim yarn. And I will tell you the colors here. We'll pull the hats back down and I'll tell you what the colors are. But this, so it does get some changes here, but it's not on the same level that the Red Heart Unforgettable yarns did. Okay, but it does get up to a very thick DK weight, and then it goes down to a DK weight. Now, of course, this is real big and fluffy, but that's because right here at the end it's real big and fluffy. But that's because where it's starting to unravel a little bit because I ended the yarn. So, you can see, for the most part, it stays pretty even. Whereas when you look at this ball, you can see the differences between the strands. And you're thicker, you got a real thin one there. So you can see the differences there. And then this is the Landscape yarn by Lion Brand. And just like the Mary Maxim Prism yarn, it's pretty consistent as far as the weight goes. Okay, so it stays pretty consistent. In the weight categories. Okay, so that's something that is interesting to know about the yarns. Now, the other thing that I want to mention is, how do they feel compared to each other? I am going to rate the three yarns favorite as far as feel goes to least favorite. And if any of you follow me lately, you probably know what's going to go in my favorite. The number one spot is Unforgettable. This is an amazing feeling yarn. It's quickly becoming one of my all-time favorite yarns. Number two spot is Prism. And number three is Landscape. So I really like, I really love how this feels. It's squishy, it's soft, it's warm. I really love this, and I would make anything in this except for maybe a purse or a bag or something, but I would make anything wearable in this. It feels amazing. I love it. This feels just as amazing. It's got a little bit more of a less soft, more silky, I think is the best way to put it, feel to it than this does. So I really like it as well, but it is a DK weight, so I prefer to go with the average of a 4 weight here, so because things will work up a little bit quicker. But this is a great second choice. This is more easily accessible for me, actually, so this would probably always end up being my first choice, but they have some great colorways in this as well. In fact, I have one, I can't even remember the name of the colorway, but I'm making it the teardrop blanket. I'll link that review up above, But yeah, I'm going to be making the teardrop blanket out of this type of yarn, and that is probably my favorite colorway in this type of yarn. Okay, now this is almost woolly feeling compared to these two. It's not woolly, just like the others. It's 100% acrylic. So they're all 100% acrylic. This is the softest. This is a very close second. Feels a little bit silkier than soft. And this one right here feels a little bit on the woolly side. It's not bad. It's still soft, but it still feels a little bit on the woolly side when you're comparing it to something like Unforgettable. So my first choice in these roving yarns is going to be Unforgettable as far as softness and just squishiness goes. And all around, I'm going to pick this one always 100% more than I pick the other ones. Now let's take a look at the hats and see how those worked out. I used the same hook size in all of the hats, even with the DK weight yarn. I did use the same hat size or hook size. Let me look at the labels real quick and see how they compare as far as weight. And I'm going to tell you the different colorways. So we're going to take a look at the label of this one first. This is the landscape yarn. Okay. And this is Lion Brands yarn, landscape. It is 100% acrylic. And it is a medium weight 4, and they suggest a 6mm needle and a 6.5mm hook. I'd say on this, yeah, 6 to a 6.5mm hook actually would work really well. I used a 5.5mm hook, and the cloth feels a little bit tighter than I usually like in a hat, but there's something to be said for when you want it to be tighter, especially if you're making like a sweater or something. And you know, as we handle things, it does get a little bit loosey-goosey as you handle it and wash it. Okay, so this particular care instruction is machine wash on gentle and lay flat to dry. And that's how the colorway works up, which you can see that right here. And the name of this particular colorway is Blue Lagoon. Alright, so that's that label. Now let's take a look at the Maxim Prism, which is this hat right here. Alright, oh, you know what? I didn't compare here. Give me a second. I didn't do this, and I completely forgot. Okay, so included in this ball of yarn, it is 3.5 ounces, or 100 grams, or 147 yards, 134 meters. Okay, so that's what gets included in a ball of the landscaped yarns. The price point on this ball of yarn is usually somewhere between $5 to $7, depending on whether you get it on sale or not. But it's somewhere between $5 and $7. So that's the price point on the Lion Brand landscape yarn. So now let's go ahead and talk about the Maxim Prism yarn. The Maxim Prism yarn is, so we're going to take a look at this part of the label. The size of it is 100 grams, or 3.5 ounces. It is 100% acrylic, which, as I mentioned, all of these are 100% acrylic. This ball includes, the Maxim ball includes 290 yards, or 265 meters. Now keep in mind, this is a DK weight, where this was a 4 weight. But that is a lot more yardage. You're getting, what, almost 100 more yards. Just comparing that real quick. So 147 yards versus 290 yards. So about 150 more yards, I think. Yeah. About 150 more yards in the Maxim. And for those that are on the metric system, it's 134 meters versus 265 meters. So you are pretty much doubling your meters. All right. And doubling the yardage as well, almost. All right. So they recommend a US 6 needle. And they don't have a recommendation for the crochet hook, but with a DK weight, usually you go somewhere like around a 4 or 4.5 needle weight, but the 5.5 that I used worked really well, and it didn't leave any obvious gaping or anything like that. It wasn't too loose of a stitch. So I'd say somewhere between a 4 to a 5.5 would be fine with crochet hooks. And it is 100 grams, 3.5 ounces. I think I just went over that. I won't go over that again. It is a light 3-weight. Washing instructions are on the inside, so you want to hand wash in cool water. So you hand wash this. It does not recommend washing it on the gentle cycle. I'm going to tell you, I'm going to wash all 3 of these hats before the end of this video. I will have washed them, and they will be washed in the washer. I will not hand wash them. So just a heads up, I'm not going to follow. I'm going to wash them all the same way. So I am not going to hand wash this. Okay? Just a heads up on that. I am going to lay them all flat to dry though. So this one you lay flat to dry as well. Okay? And the color is Rain Shower. That's the colorway for this one, Rain Shower. I did want to note on the colorway on this, I found interesting is, well, I actually joined here, so you get that, but here, it doesn't go completely like starting over the colorway again, like these other two do. It like goes back and forth. So you got the purple, the blue, the purple, the mint, the green. Then we're going back to the mint, the purple, the mint, the green. So it's not the pattern is, it's a little bit more ombre, I think, or something like that than it is striping, because it does this kind of fade in and out colorway thing. So it's funny, on this side you get your purple and mints. Okay, when you look at it on this side, the hat, then you flip it over and you get your purples and blues. So depending on your mood, you can show off whichever color you want in this hat. So there is that, and I'm going to talk a little bit more about how these different hats feel here in a minute. But first I'm going to finish going through the labels. So the Mary Maxim Prism yarn can run somewhere between $6 to $8. And these, when I get these prices, they're quick Google searches. So I'm seeing them run, I mean, they can get up there in price. But this is, keep in mind that this is primarily a Canadian yarn. So, yarn company. So I think that's pretty reasonable. So that, again, that's I've seen it run somewhere between $6 and $8 for a skein of the Mary Maxim yarns. All right, so now we're going to take a look at, well, I've already stated this is my favorite. So we're going to take a look at this one, and this is Red Heart Unforgettable. This is my favorite as far as feel goes, but let's take a look at the value. So this yarn, again, they recommend a 6mm hook. And I think that on these roving yarns, they recommend bigger hook sizes because of the fact that they rove and they can get pretty big. And because it is a loose spun yarn, if you're using a hook that's too small, it can be difficult to work with because you end up splitting the yarn and causing some problems. So if you're deft at using your hook and getting it right there, I would err on the side of getting a little bit smaller hook than using the recommended hook size. 6 seems really large to me. I used a 5mm on this, and I really like the way that it worked up. So, and I like the feel and how loose it is, but yet how close to the stitches are. So, just that's a 5.5mm, which is only 0.5mm less than what they recommend. But it did, at the thicker points, I did have to slow down and make sure that I didn't split the yarn. So, just a heads up on that. And this ball, you get, again, you're almost doubling what you're going to get, a little bit less than doubling what you get in the landscapes ball. So again, landscapes, you got 147 yards or 134 meters. In this skein, I keep saying ball, but in this skein, you get 270 yards or 246 meters. It's a 3.5 ounce or 100 gram weight of yarn. It is a worsted 4-weight. They do recommend 5mm needles. and machine wash and dry. So this you can actually dry in the machine, it's saying. I'm going to lay flat to dry, so I'm washing them and drying them all the same way. So I'm going to lay this one flat to dry, but this one says you can machine wash and dry it. Again, it's 100% acrylic. Don't touch it with an iron, and I think that means no dry cleaning. Not positive. This colorway here is called Teal Berry. And how much can you get Unforgettable yarn for? So my quick Google search is telling me that you can get Unforgettable yarns anywhere between, I say they range at about $6. I see some at $5 a piece on Etsy. For the most part, they run around $6 a skein. So they are all a little bit comparable in price, with the Mary Maxim being just a little bit higher, and you can get a little bit lower in the Lion brand Unforgettable. Okay, so now we're going to get down to how did these 3 yarns feel when I worked them up, or how do they feel in the hats? And I use the same stitches, I guess. I made the same hat, just one doesn't have only one has the pom-pom. I just didn't have enough yarn in these two to create the pom-pom. That's the only reason why. Otherwise I would have loved to show you what the pom-pom looks like with these two, but I didn't have enough yarn left. I had 3 skeins of this, so I made a cowl along with this as well, so for a set, and I had plenty left over to make the pom-pom. Anyway, back to the hats at hand. So how do they feel? I'm going to tell you, these 2 yarns here feel very soft, very squishy. The fabric is loose without it being too holey. So it's nice and loose and stretchy, and I like the way that this feels. These 2 feel as far as that goes. As far as texture goes, this one's going to be a little bit softer. And whereas this one has kind of like that silky feel, where the stitches feel a little bit more solid instead of just squishy, I guess is the best way to put it. It's kind of got a sheen on it. It's hard for me to explain, but there is a slight difference in the feel between this one and this one, and this one I would call a little bit softer. Okay, now we're going to talk about landscape. So when I worked up with this one, it is a much stiffer hat. It's not quite as loosey-goosey, so it's much stiffer, and it does feel a lot more woolly, and I mentioned that before. It feels a lot more woolly. I imagine that this hat is going to be crazy warm. This hat is for my daughter, so she's going to be the one enjoying this colorful hat, and it is just going to be crazy warm, I think, for her on her head. And she likes, it's not too woolly for her, so she likes the way that it feels. And so that's the difference between them. But this is a much stiffer. But this is a true 4 weight. It stays even 4 weight throughout, whereas this one is a 4 weight, but it gets only up to a full 4 weight in parts, and then it can go all the way down to like a 2 weight. It feels like it's probably closer to like a low 3. But so that's the difference in working with these 3 yarns. Okay, they all feel great, and my daughter's gonna love this hat. And this one holds its shape so much better. The landscape holds its shape a lot better than these. These, like I said, are a lot more loosey-goosey, but that's the way I like my yarn, so I'm okay with that. That's the way I like my hats. I'm okay with that. So that's how they all work. So the next step is I'm going to wash these 3 hats. Now it's going to be a little bit before I get that done, but I'm going to come back to this video, add it on, and let you know what they look like after each of these 3 hats get washed. Okay, hopefully I don't ruin them, because I really love them, but I will definitely wash these. And like I said, this one says to hand wash and lay flat to dry. This one says to machine wash, lay flat to dry, and this says you can machine wash and dry it, but both on low. So how I plan on washing these 3, I'm going to wash them all the same way. Okay, and I know that I'm not going to be following recommendations on this one, but I am going to wash them all the same way. I'm going to wash them on the gentle cycle in cold, and I'm going to lay all 3 of them flat to dry, and then I'm going to compare what they feel like after the wash is done. Okay, so until I get done with that, which is going to be like just a couple of seconds for you in video editing magic, and we'll come back and we will see what those are like. Hi, welcome back, and it's been a few days. Actually, it's been several days, but I have washed and laid flat to dry these 3 hats. So it did take me to lay flat to dry. It took to fully dry. It took about 3 days. And unfortunately I couldn't leave them in my mom's during that time, so if you see any cat hair on here, it's because I had to lay flat to dry here at my house, and I don't have a room that I close off to the cats. So but I'm keeping these for myself, so it's no big deal. Anyway, I wanted to let you know how it was after the wash. So all of them got not really much more of a halo than they already come with, being the yarn that they are, because they already have halos on the yarn when you're making it. So I don't see where I got too much more halo. This didn't really soften that much more. It's still a little bit rougher than the rest, but it's still a beautiful colorway, and it's still, I mean, it's still a great hat, and it's soft. I just don't know, for me, I don't know that I would like to make a scarf out of this, because it feels a little woolly to me. And when I say woolly, I don't mean like yarny and fluffy. I mean like it's made a little bit out of wool. That's to me. So that's the roughness. That just may be a sensitivity on my part. Some people may find this super soft, but to me this is probably the roughest of the bunch. But it still washes really well. It kept the color amazing. I did lay flat to dry. More than likely, when I wash this again, I will not do that. I will throw it in the dryer. I know that I am not following the rules of the label, but if I can't put it in the dry, and I always dry it on low and gentle, but if I can't dry it, then I don't want it. To be honest with you, I don't have time, because of all my animals, I don't have time to lay flat to dry, because I get hair all over the place. Anyway, so it does, the colors did stay in gorgeous colors here. I think it's just beautiful. And the hat is soft, it's just not as soft as the others. So that's my verdict on that one. And then this one, it actually feels like it got a little bit more loosey-goosey when it went through the wash. But it's still super soft. And yeah, actually I don't feel much of a difference now between this and between the Unforgettable, the Red Heart Unforgettable. This one, just to remind you, is the Landscape, the Line Brand Landscape, and this one is Mary Maxim Prism. Okay, so that one still, it came out beautifully. It still came out beautifully. And I know I remarked on this before, but I like how the colorway works. So it's like almost one side is the green and purple, and then the other side is the blue and purple. It's just the way that the colorway works up. It's not it doesn't work up in a way where it's like it repeats the colors over and over. It almost does like a, okay, we're going to do green, purple, purple, and then we're going to go back to purple and do it opposite the next time. So I found that very interesting. But yeah, that's real nice. It came out really nice. And it still is very soft and squishy, and I think it is will make an amazing hat. Alright, here's this one. This one is my hat. I will be wearing this winter, and I will be wearing it with this cowl that I made to match. And this is a pattern that was created by my friend Julie. So I would suggest going and checking that out. I'm going to link her channel up above, and I'll link this particular tutorial down below. But she's one, actually, her channel's always linked below because she's one of the yarn hookers. So make sure you go and follow her. But I will also link this particular tutorial below. So I need to fluff up my pom-poms again, because I did wash these, and you know how pom-poms are. You have to do a little bit more fluffing whenever you send them through the wash. But this just, it washed up beautifully. It's still super, super soft. It was always a little on the loosey-goosey side for me, but and so it didn't really do it any more loose. So, and the colors are still just as vibrant. as before. This actually, out of all the yarns, this one did get a little bit more halo in parts after the wash. Okay, and then this is the only thing I hate about washing is I gotta fluff up my pom-poms all over again, because this pom-pom was so beautiful and now it's like smushed and not as beautiful, and I'll probably need to trim it up again. Look at that. Anyway, that's my problem, not yours. It washed just fine. It's just, you know, you always got to fluff up that pom-pom again after a wash. And then I need to tighten it down a little bit because it, in the wash, where I tied it on loosened a little bit. So that's just me not tying it down tight enough. So that did happen as well. It got a little bit looser. Here we go. You can see that better. A little bit looser on my hat. So I just need to go in and tighten that down. No big deal. But yeah, that's the difference between the three different roving yarns. And there are other roving yarns out there. So these are not the only roving yarns. These are just the ones that I've worked with, and I really wanted to do a comparison between them. And I really do like working with them. I probably will not buy landscape again because I do not like just the feel of it, that kind of woolly feel. So I will probably not get that one again. This one's okay. It is a DK weight, but it works really well with a 5.5 millimeter, because I made all of these in the 5.5 with a 5.5 millimeter hook. So this one is probably, out of the three, is my third favorite. Beautiful colors, don't get me wrong. Beautiful, beautiful colors. It's just my third favorite. Alright, and then my second favorite would be this one. Only because it is a DK weight, and just the original feel of it, it felt a little, I don't know, like it had a coating on it almost. It was different. It just silky. It felt more silky than it did soft, I think, is the best way to term it. It worked out beautifully. I do like the sense of the colors going, not what I just was talking about. It wasn't like each color row again. It actually did the colors up and did the colors down, is the best way for me to describe that. But so it worked out beautifully, and I really enjoy it. I probably will buy this again. I have a ton of it for a blanket, but I would use it to make a hat or a scarf all over again. I think it works up beautifully. It is another one that's lay flat to dry, which I'm not a fan of that, so I would be putting this in the dryer. And so just a heads up, but that's just me. This one, the label, and that is number 2 on my favorites. This one, the label recommends that you wash and you can dry. You can tumble dry in the machine. And so yeah, that's always appealing to me. But this is my favorite. I still love the feel of it, and these two actually feel very similar after washing. So there's not much of a difference between the two. And but I do love this colorway, and it is easier for me to get this as opposed to the Prism. And I've even bought more of this. I just got a haul from Hirschner's where I got a ton more of this particular, not this colorway, but this particular yarn for other projects. And I actually even bought a project book at Michael's specifically for, well, it's actually specifically for landscape yarn, but I'm going to be using this yarn, which is the Unforgettable. So that is my verdict on the 3 different roving yarns. What do you think? Do you feel like you would have a favorite, or have you used all 3 and you have a favorite? Which one's your favorite? Is it the same as mine, or is it something different? And what kind of things do you look at when comparing yarns? Do you feel like I missed a point that I should have gone over? Let me know down below, because next time I do a yarn comparison, I would love to make sure I cover everything that you're looking for. If you found this video helpful, please don't forget to give it a thumbs up. And if you like these kind of videos along with yarn hauls, other reviews, as well as tutorials, then go ahead and hit that subscribe button and hit the bell so that you're reminded each time I put out a new video. And before I forget, I want to make sure that you guys remember that I have a live every Saturday at 11 a.m. That is just me, just chatting it up with you guys. And then I have a live every Saturday night at 5 p.m. With my fellow yarn hookers. So you need to just kind of follow us all because we rotate whose channel it's going to be on. So I just make sure that that's it down in the description below, so make sure you follow that as well. If you have any questions about anything that I'm showing you, please don't hesitate to ask me. You can email me if you prefer not to leave a comment. That information is also down below. You guys have a wonderful day, and thank you so much for joining me. Bye-bye.